So today, being the seventh day of Navratri, I thought I would read some of the poems that I have that address night, or that refer to night, and collect these sections of poems that I've written over time in a series of night songs. And the reason that I wanted to do it today, well, first let me say something about the English meaning of the Sanskrit. Navratri is composed of two words. The first word, Nava, is the Sanskrit word for 8, and it refers to...
Excuse me for interrupting with the Latin word, a contract and fee through Theta, but 7 days ago when Navratri began you told me that Nava was the Sanskrit word for 9 and that there were 9 nights in Navratri, each for one of the 9 forms of Durga.
Yes, Aaron, that's precisely right. What did I say? Did I say 8? I appreciate the fact that you were paying attention, Aaron. And in fact, I was going to say, I actually space-time traveled into the future, and in a different string of time, you hadn't corrected me, and I had left that mistake up, and I discovered that we had actually had already 7 viewers, none of whom corrected the mistake. And so I really appreciate the fact that you've been paying attention and listening to the work that we've been doing here, Aaron. And I appreciate also your use of the Latin. I'm not entirely sure why you chose this particular representation of the error. Would you care to explain that to us?
A contract and fee through Theta, I choose this one because it represents the 6 chakras, which are actually 7 chakras, and when you said Nava meant 8, you had misplaced your Ajna chakra. Ha 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 ha.
Okay, Aaron, I get how you might think that's funny. We'll work on tone, and we'll discuss some of the things that make a joke in the future. I'll have you read Sigmund Freud's on jokes and their relationship to the unconscious, and you can read the Bergson too. There's a few other things that we'll do with that. But thank you for reminding me about the number. Yes, Nava represents the number 9, and there are 9 nights of Navratri, and as you probably also remember, Ratri is the Sanskrit word for night, and indeed you are correct. There are 9 forms of Maa Durga, and they are represented and celebrated in these 9 nights. So thank you once again for paying attention, and thank you for the additional information regarding these particular chakras. And I'm actually glad that I made that error, Aaron, because if I hadn't made that error, I wouldn't have remembered to call attention to the fact that Kalaratri is associated with this 7th chakra that's sometimes referred to as the Thousand Petalled Lotus chakra, or 1,000 petaled. That's the meaning in Sanskrit of this particular word. So as I was saying, Aaron, one of the interesting things about the goddess Kalaratri is that, at least it's interesting, to me, that she's the only form of Maa Durga who is celebrated in Navratri whose name refers to night and references in a certain way the festival itself, although her name is thousands of years old. But this is interesting, for a number of reasons, because the belonging that her name expresses to night is so central to the nature of who she is and what she represents. One can argue that Kali, her name also refers to night. The more obvious etymological root for Kali is time, which the form Kala is masculine in Sanskrit, but the name Kali clearly comes from the word for time, but also embodies this aspect of the image of darkness, this darkness before time. And Kalaratri is inscribed with both of those references. So Kali, Kala, time, and night that are situated together in the image of a goddess whose origin and destiny is intertwined with both time and the absence that precedes and follows it. And so conceptually, Kalaratri encloses in some profound way both the entirety of the space of the universe and the entirety of the time of the universe. And the experience of Kalaratri or Kali is to experience that eternity. And when she presents herself, one feels that one is in the presence of incomprehensible time and incomprehensible power. I thought that in honor of this particular day and this particular embodiment of Durga, that I would, read a series of night songs. And I've, I ran a search through what I have left of a lot of poetry that I've written over the years has been destroyed, but what I have left of a few volumes of my poetry, and I just did a search for night, and I collected passages from these volumes, and I'm calling each one of them night songs. So I'd like to read the night songs. And then, if possible, improvise around these old poems, fashioning them into something, more appropriate in honor of this particular context in which, they're being read. And I may not read all of them, the ones that I collected. There were a lot of references tonight over the course of my work, but I collected 21 of them, and I may not read all of the 21, but I'll read the original selections as they were originally written, and then I'll see if I can improvise them in more appropriate ways to this particular context and situate them in, the relationship that I have with Kalaratri. Night Song 1, and I'll always, I'll present the originals first. Night Song 1. I gathered stones, and because white stone would not congeal to black stone, and because one gray stone would not hold fast to the next, I learned to balance day stone upon night stone, sometimes a piece of bone-honeyed chalk resting on a slate of porous and speckled granite, sometimes a bit of broken obsidian to support a fiery column of marble. The number of stones to be gathered does not change. There are as many stones to be gathered in the night as in the day. But because the white stone and the black stone, but because the gray stone, but because the placement of the stone, because the eye has a difficult time locating the stone, because a piece of this stone might cut the hand in a way that that stone does not, because this stone weighs so much more than that stone, because the edges of the stone are indiscreet in the darkness, because sometimes a piece of bone-honeyed chalk, because this one resting on a slate of porous and speckled granite is invisible to the eye at night, because a piece of broken obsidian penetrates the flesh, because there are as many stones at night as there are in the day, because this stone does not cling to that stone, because one gray stone would not hold fast to the next, because the encounter of night and stone belongs to a kind of work, because the encounter of hand and stone belongs to a kind of worker, because the encounter of blood and stone belongs to a kind of ritual. Because there are as many stones to gather at night as there are in the day, we gather stones. Because there are as many stones to gather at night as there are in the day, we remember which stone to gather. We remember which stone sits next to the last. We remember which stone supports the final. We remember which stone was placed before the last. We remember which stone was placed before the next. We remember which stone was placed at night and which stone was placed in the night before. We remember the slate of porous and speckled granite. We remember the edge of the broken obsidian. We remember the fiery column of marble. Because there are as many stones to gather at night as in the day. Because there are as many songs of stones sung at night. Because the bone-honeyed chalk, because the porous and speckled granite, because the broken bit of obsidian, because the fiery column of marble, because stone upon night stone, because day upon night stone, because day and night upon the holding fast to the next stone, because the white stone would not congeal to the black stone. Because the time of stones, because the time before stones, because the time after stones, because night, because the night stones, because the night before stones, because the night after stones. Night Song 2. I wandered at night in search of a star that would fulfill the madness of my dreams. I confused the signs of words with the ideas that wandered wordless inside my mind. Time became indiscreet. In the first meeting with night, night has no name, but the feeling of night is ancient, and her language beyond anything one could imagine. Before there were words, before there were sounds, before there were mouths to utter the words, before there were animals to bark and cry out in the dark, there were stars, and the name of night must have been written in the language of stars. And the spaces between stars. Before there were dreams, before there were ideas, before there were signs, before the confusion of words and the ideas that created an image in language of the stars conveyed a language that spoke of night, that spoke of time. Wordlessly, they must have been also like the one who encounters night, have been trying to remember or to utter her name. Night Song 3. Outside the house of the dead, the stars are falling one by one to remind you of the unforeseen future of those you love and have loved in the days filled with dandelions and the nights of the new moon. Outside the house of the dead, Kalaratri, the stars are falling. One by one, you remind me, Kalaratri, of the unforeseen future of those I love, Kalaratri, and have loved, Kalaratri, in the days, Kalaratri, filled with dandelions, Kalaratri, and the nights, Kalaratri, of the new moon, Kalaratri. Outside, Kalaratri, the house, Kalaratri, of the dead, Kalaratri, the stars, Kalaratri are falling, Kalaratri, one Kalaratri by one Kalaratri to remind you, Kalaratri, of the Kalaratri, unforeseen Kalaratri, future Kalaratri, of those you love, Kalaratri, and have loved, Kalaratri, in the days, Kalaratri, filled Kalaratri, with Kalaratri, danned Kalaratri, lions Kalaratri, and Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, nights Kalaratri, of Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, new Kalaratri, moon Kalaratri, out Kalaratri, side Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, house Kalaratri, of Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, dead Kalaratri, stars Kalaratri, are Kalaratri, fall Kalaratri, yin Kalaratri, one Kalaratri, by Kalaratri, one Kalaratri, two Kalaratri, Kalaratri, mind Kalaratri, you Kalaratri, of Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, Kalaratri, for Kalaratri, seen Kalaratri, future Kalaratri, of Kalaratri, those Kalaratri, you Kalaratri, love Kalaratri, and Kalaratri, have Kalaratri, loved Kalaratri, in Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, days Kalaratri, filled Kalaratri, with Kalaratri, dan Kalaratri, Kalaratri, lions Kalaratri, and Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, night Kalaratri, of Kalaratri, the Kalaratri, new Kalaratri, moon Kalaratri. Or I'm going to skip night song 4. I'm going to move on to night song 5. Night song 5. In becoming star among the others, I encountered brethren all linked in that they had suffered no more than I. Dances at night reach you. Maps and rivers spoke to you. Numbers haunt you with their paradise. And because she gave me the gift of night, I was able to see myself in the becoming star among the others. And because she gave me the gift of night, I was able to encounter myself in the brethren linked, in that we had all suffered no more than any of the other. And because she gave me the gift of dance at night, I was able to reach you. And because she gave me the maps and rivers which spoke to me at night, I was able to read you. And because she gave me the keys to the numbers that appear in the sky at night, I was able to haunt you with their paradise. This is Night Song 11. I called it the labyrinth of stars, the labyrinth that captures us, fire labyrinth and blooming labyrinth. spoken labyrinth, the labyrinth that bears witness, blind labyrinth and dark labyrinth, the white labyrinth of bone, the labyrinth of visions, labyrinth of the urn, and labyrinth of memory, heart labyrinth, sepial labyrinth, labyrinth that draws us near, labyrinth that tears us asunder, labyrinth of outside, labyrinth of all around, labyrinth of morning, sky labyrinth, red and blue moon labyrinth, the labyrinth of the wanderer through storm, carbon labyrinth, amethyst labyrinth of the cat's eye, labyrinth of harps, of caves, of basalt mines, golden labyrinth, amber labyrinth, labyrinth of 1,001 nights. I called it the night of stars, the night that captures us, fire night and blooming night, spoken night, the night that bears witness, blind night and dark night, the white night of bone, night of visions, night of the urn, and night of memory, heart night, sepal night, night that draws us near, night that tears us asunder, night of outside, night of all around, night of morning, sky night, red and blue moon night, the night of the wanderer through storm, carbon night, amethyst night, night of the cat's eye, night of harps, of caves, of basalt mines, golden night, amber night, night of 1,001 more nights. This is Night Song 13. Now that night has passed once again so quickly into injury and opening, day so determinately into silent speech, I stand faithless against the shutter and window of your doubt. Now that night is all around impenetrable, there is nothing but night, once again night so quickly. There is no injury or opening in the surrounding night, only this great night determinately into which our silence dissolves. I stand firmly against the shutter and embrace of your night starry lit eyes. There is no window of doubt. There is only the blanket and embrace of night. This is Night Song 16. Windows look out onto further windows. Doorwells spin stories from the broomweed. Night passes unnoticed to deeper, deeper night. Your eyes sing wearily the songs without words. Your hands speak blindly the words without reference. Barely visible, the curved neck of night passes into tremulous, sensate night. We speak through steel between the bars with words carried in bundles, threaded with knots that cannot be untied. Barely visible, the curved neck of night passes tenderly into darker, deserted night. Night windows look out onto further night windows. Night doorwells spin night stories from the night broomweed. The night of nights passes unnoticed into darker, deeper nights of nights. Your night eyes sing wearily the night songs without night words. Your night hands speak blindly the night words without night references. Barely visible, the curved neck of night passes into tremulous, sensate night. We speak nightly through night steel, between the night bars with night words, carried in bundles of night, threaded with knots that cannot be untied, not even at night, barely visible. The curved neck of night passes tenderly into darker, deserted night. This is Night Song 17. Your memory with its uncut hair, its path of stones, its night which endures, its brilliance which finds shelter in the air. It says, we are lost beneath the moon and wander aimlessly, seeking you who departed before our birth, who never was, whose time stirred before our own, who became salt or stone when spoken of in a dream. It says, enter the world, spinning, reach for our hands. Vision is infinite, swimming light, shining star, morning and evening star. The night is filled with falling snow. And the transformation of this poem, and it'll be the last poem that I read, is relatively simple. Your memory with its uncut hair, its path of stones, its night which endures, its brilliance which finds shelter in the air. It says, night. We are lost beneath the moon and wander aimlessly, seeking you who departed before our birth, who never was, whose time stirred before our own, who became salt or stone when spoken of in a dream. It says, night, enter the world, spinning, reach for our hands. Vision is infinite, swimming light, shining star, morning and evening star. The night is filled with falling snow. Night.